Yesterday, what began as a peaceful North Ogden afternoon was suddenly and unexpectedly shattered. The sun was shining, children played in their yards, and neighbors tended to gardens, enjoying the calm that often defines this close-knit community. But that calm was broken when a plume of smoke began to rise from the foothills near Willard Peak, visible from nearly every backyard and window in the area. By 2:30 p.m. on August 13, 2025, it was clear to everyone. Something was terribly wrong. A wildfire ignited by a vehicle fire was now threatening the very homes and lives of North Ogden residents. Emergency vehicles raced to the scene, their sirens piercing the uneasy silence. The flames, fanned by a dry summer breeze, quickly leapt from brittle grass to dense gamble oak, transforming what could have been a minor roadside incident into a fast-moving, major emergency. The hillside, usually a backdrop for evening walks, was now ablaze. Residents gathered outside, watching in disbelief as the smoke thickened and the acrid smell of burning wood filled the air. Some filmed the scene on their phones, while others simply stared, stunned by how quickly the situation had escalated. The fire, fueled by weeks of hot, dry weather, moved with alarming speed, climbing the familiar hillsides that many had hiked just days before. The parched landscape offered little resistance. Uncertainty and anxiety gripped the community. Neighbors gathered in small groups, exchanging worried glances and information. Phone calls were made to loved ones, and people checked news updates, desperate for any word on evacuations or containment. The sky, once blue, darkened with thick smoke as emergency crews poured in from surrounding areas. Sirens echoed through the streets, a constant reminder of the danger approaching. What started as a quiet, ordinary afternoon had now become a race against time. A battle between nature and the people determined to protect their homes. As the fire advanced, the community braced for what was coming, knowing that in just a few minutes, everything they knew and loved could be at risk. The sense of uncertainty was overwhelming, but so was the resolve to face whatever came next, together. The fire spread with shocking speed, fueled by dry grasses and unpredictable canyon winds. By evening, it had consumed up to 200 acres, moving explosively across the landscape. Winds shifted constantly, pushing flames toward neighborhoods and making the fire's path impossible to predict. Residents on the edge of the wilderness watched as flames reached their backyards. The heat and crackling of burning trees filled the air, while steep terrain made firefighting nearly impossible. The fire climbed uphill, preheating fuel and creating powerful drafts. Dry fuel, steep slopes, and erratic winds combined into a volatile, fast-moving threat. Firefighters and residents alike faced the real possibility of homes in the path of destruction. As the fire closed in, officials issued urgent mandatory evacuation orders for all homes east of 1050 East. The decision came after hours of monitoring shifting winds and rapidly advancing flames, leaving authorities with no choice but to act quickly to protect lives. The evacuation zone stretched north of 2850 North, encompassing entire neighborhoods, including the Mason Cove subdivision, where families had lived for generations. With little warning, residents scrambled to gather what they could: important documents, cherished family photos, and beloved pets, knowing they might not return for days or ever. The air was thick with smoke and anxiety as people rushed to their cars, hearts pounding. Over 100 homes were now in the direct path of the wildfire. Families faced the gut-wrenching prospect of losing everything they had built, their memories and possessions at the mercy of the flames. Police and emergency crews worked tirelessly, directing traffic and guiding long lines of cars out of the danger zone. The roads were packed, headlights cutting through the haze as families fled to safety. Amid the chaos, a sense of community emerged. Neighbors helped each other load cars, shared supplies, and offered comfort. Strangers became allies, united by the urgent need to escape and the hope that their homes would survive. Even those just outside the official evacuation zone felt the tension. They packed emergency go-bags, prepared their vehicles, and kept a close eye on the news, ready to leave at a moment's notice if the fire changed direction. As night fell, the community gathered outside, watching the distant orange glow of the wildfire. Anxiety and uncertainty filled the air, with everyone waiting for updates and hoping for good news. The evacuation boundaries gave firefighters crucial space to operate, setting up defenses and working through the night, but the fear among residents was palpable, as the fate of their homes hung in the balance. For many, the hardest part was the waiting, the uncertainty of not knowing what they would return to, and the hope that, somehow, their lives would remain intact after the flames passed. Firefighting efforts ramped up immediately, with ground crews and aerial support attacking the blaze. Helicopters and air tankers dropped water and fire retardant, offering hope to residents watching below. Pilots navigated dangerous, smoky winds to target the hottest spots. For a while it seemed the combined assault might slow the fire's advance. But by 7 p.m., erratic winds forced all aircraft to stand down for safety. Ground crews were left to battle the fire alone on steep, treacherous terrain. The loss of aerial support was a major setback, and the fire continued its unpredictable march. Fire officials called for more resources, but the night became a grueling ground fight. The focus shifted to defending the perimeter and protecting evacuated homes. The relentless wind and terrain made every hour a challenge for those on the front lines. As the wildfire raged out of control, a new and unexpected crisis struck. Power suddenly went out for more than 31,000 homes and businesses across Weber County. The flames, already threatening lives and property, now brought a different kind of danger: darkness and uncertainty. The blackout plunged entire neighborhoods into pitch blackness, leaving families to fumble for candles and flashlights. For many, the sudden loss of electricity added a layer of fear and confusion to an already tense and chaotic night, as the only light came from the distant, flickering glow of the fire itself. The fire had burned directly into a major transmission corridor, and thick, electrically conductive smoke caused a dangerous fault, instantly shutting down the line. The intense heat and smoke made the situation even more hazardous, damaging critical infrastructure and making repairs impossible. Utility crews were forced to wait at a safe distance, unable to access the area until the fire was brought under control. With roads blocked and flames threatening, thousands of people were left without electricity, unsure of when help would arrive. The outage stretched far beyond the immediate evacuation zones, impacting communities like North Ogden, Pleasant View, and several others. Entire towns were shrouded in darkness, their streets eerily quiet except for the distant sounds of emergency vehicles. Inside their homes, residents scrambled to find working flashlights and batteries. Many worried about food spoiling in powerless refrigerators, and some grew anxious as security systems and medical devices failed. The uncertainty of when the power would return only heightened their stress. For those forced to evacuate, the blackout was another layer of anxiety. With homes left unprotected and no way to monitor the situation remotely, families anxiously checked their phones for updates, hoping for good news. The event made it clear how a wildfire can trigger a cascade of problems, disrupting not just the immediate area but the entire region's infrastructure. Power outages, communication breakdowns, and emergency response delays all became part of the crisis. As the night wore on, everyone waited in the darkness, hoping for both the fire and the power to be brought under control and for a sense of normalcy to return to their lives. Officials moved quickly to manage the crisis, closing the North Ogden Divide Road to keep it clear for emergency vehicles. Residents were urged to stay away from the fire area and avoid creating traffic that could hinder the response. Rocky Mountain Power asked everyone to conserve electricity, warning that a surge in demand could cause further outages when power was restored. Residents were told to turn off air conditioners and non-essential appliances. The Mountain View Irrigation Company requested a halt to lawn watering, preserving water for firefighting helicopters. These measures showed how everyone had a role in the emergency response. By conserving power and water and staying off the roads, the community could help firefighters do their jobs. The message was clear: collective action was needed to prevent further complications. In a crisis, every small act of cooperation mattered. For evacuees, the experience was harrowing. One moment at home, the next fleeing from flames. There was no time for careful decisions, only a frantic rush to grab essentials and escape. Families packed pets, documents, and a few precious photos, leaving behind the rest. The emotional toll was immense, with many watching the fire from parking lots, anxiously awaiting news. Every shift in the wind brought new fear, and the sense of helplessness was overwhelming. Neighbors shared updates and comforted each other, united by uncertainty. The trauma of evacuation, being forced from home, not knowing what you'll return to, will linger long after the fire is out. Even those whose homes were spared felt the impact deeply. The fire threatened not just property but the community's sense of safety and stability. It was a stark reminder of how quickly life can change. Amid the chaos, the community's compassion shone through. The Red Cross opened a shelter at a local church, offering evacuees a safe place to sleep and eat. The Weber County Fairgrounds became a refuge for livestock, easing the burden for animal owners. Social media filled with offers of spare rooms, pet care, and help transporting animals. Friends, family, and strangers opened their doors, ensuring no one faced the night alone. These acts of kindness provided both physical and emotional shelter. The official shelters were vital, but the informal network of neighborly support defined the community's response. Volunteers and families worked together, showing the best of humanity in a crisis. Even as the fire raged, generosity and solidarity lit the way. As of this morning, the Willard Peak Fire remains active and uncontained, with evacuation orders still in place. Thanks to firefighters' tireless work, no homes have been lost so far. Winds remain a challenge, and officials urge patience. Do not return home until it's safe. Stay vigilant, keep go bags ready, and rely on official sources for updates. Follow guidance from fire and law enforcement agencies, and monitor power restoration efforts. This fire is a sobering reminder of the risks we face in Utah's dry summers. By staying informed and united, our community will get through this, together.